Well, finally we are back together, brother. We are back together on the same screen, brother. Finally.
Finally, brother.
Yes, yes, brother.
Finally.
Yes.
Finally, brother.
So everyone, welcome to another, I want to say a third in special editions, of a fandom initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get these introductions out of the way first because we have a really fun and jam-packed show.
Mm-hmm.
The man across from me, this man with the omnipotent beard, always flourishing, knows everything. It is the watcher of beards. He is the. That's a throwback. If you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is the cinema CEO. He is the cinema god. He is also one half of the tag team champions of the world, along with Lady Mina, who also has her own podcast, Mina and Mawa. And they also have a joint podcast, Michael and Lady Mina, called the AMC A-Listers.
Mm-hmm.
This is Michael Williams, the cinema CEO, the cinema god. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm good, brother. It's good to be back.
Yes, brother. Yes, I saw you flashing the guns earlier. I'm digging that. We need that. Myself, I am Antonio Pomares. I am the hungry bleak. I am the hungriest man in the room, and you can think of hunger however you want. However it is, it's me. It's all me. Today we are going to be tackling the topic of WandaVision.
Yeah.
There's a lot still festering, a lot going on. There's a lot going on there, brother. But we have some help with this. We have some extremely special help with this. Special guest. He is the writer of Her, which you can get on Amazon. If you got Amazon Prime, you'll get it in like a day.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got mine in a day, or I could have picked it up that day, and the place is like 10 minutes from me. Talk about convenience. Awesome. Right. He's also editor and head of development, I believe is what he was letting me know, which I wanted to know all of his incredible accolades for Wingless Comics, and they have a Kickstarter that is going to be coming out. It's actually out now. I apologize. It's actually out now. Go and pledge for that because it's awesome. But we're going to talk more about that as well. But this guy, and he's also one of the reasons that I stay on Facebook. If it wasn't for him, I probably would have left Facebook and burnt it to asunder by now, honestly. I just can't deal with this. Pillage! Yes. Pitchforks and everything. Pitchforks, the torches, everything. The whole Frankenstein like vibe of being outside the castle about to storm it. He is also, and I'm going to speak this into existence, future writer of the X-Men. I don't care. I'm saying out there. Hickman, hit this man up. This is Malachi Bailey.
You're too much.
Oh, and also, he may beat me as far as T-shirts because check the T-shirt that this gentleman has. Check the T-shirt.
Out of WandaVision, Wanda's old-fashioned witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's her recipe. It's true.
I have to up my game so much now.
No, you're good. You know
that one T-shirt puts me at the bottom of the heap. I don't know what happened.
No, I don't accept that, and I won't.
So, WandaVision.
Where do we begin?
Malachi, you are, in my opinion, if I was to ask anyone about Marvel lore history, I wouldn't even go to their headquarters. I would just hit you up in the DMs and say, Malachi, Marvel. Because your passion, your knowledge of it, everything that you come out with, even you have memes in your pocket like a gunslinger has like a 6-shooter on his hip. This is the fastest meme thrower out there ever. I mean, if anything you say, he has a storm meme for it, a picture, anything. He'll just Malachi, your thoughts on WandaVision?
My thoughts. So, for me, I thought it was a wonderfully crafted love letter to us Marvel fans. And when I say Marvel fans, I don't just mean the longtime comics fans like myself or you guys. I also mean the people who started watching the movies when it came out, starting in 2008. Um, they did such a wonderful job with acknowledging, how one deals with grief, how
Mm-hmm.
they deny it, how they ignore it, how they reason with it, and how they ultimately come to grips with it. But they put it in a package that was fun, visually. It was, you had the powers being displayed. You have the melodrama, drama. You had all of that going on, with the Marvel Comics, logo. So they made it appealing visually, but if you didn't feel like you were gut punched after each episode, then I am certain there's ice water flowing through your veins. Um, and I was telling, my buddy slash business partner slash bane of my existence, Brian, who is the CEO of Wingless Comics.
Mm.
I was telling him that WandaVision, I'm always going to I'm going to stand for Wanda regardless, because Wanda
Mm.
Maximoff. And don't forget, she was Wanda Harkness briefly in the Heroes Reborn, storyline from 1996.
Mm-hmm.
Won't even get into that. But Wanda as a character has been one of my favorites since I was 13. Um, and I was also thinking about when see, I can never say his name correctly. It's a Kurt Busiek or Busiek or
I want to say Busick.
Busiek, right?
Yeah.
Because he wrote Avengers from '97 to about 2004. I want to say
Mm-hmm.
because he actually was a big part in bringing them back to the main Marvel universe after Heroes Reborn. But when he started writing that title, and he was joined with George Perez, who is one of the few artists who could give everyone their own distinctive look.
Yes.
Because Vision had a long face.
Mm.
Janet Van Dyne, she had the little heart shaped face. Wanda was more angular. Everyone had their own look, which I appreciated. Even now, here we are over 20 years later. But when he started writing the book, he made it classic again. He made it, something that you would revere because, you had Iron Man, he was back from that, the alternate reality. Thor was back. In the first issue, Thor had the beard and he made that big, return, breaking through the window. And of course, Captain America. But during that particular, during that his tenure on that book, you could tell that Wanda was his favorite because it was really about her development. He actually fleshed out more of her chaos magic abilities. There was actually an issue. All right, so we're going. So it came out in December of '97. So issue 11, they did the big Avengers parade when they were celebrating the Avengers being 35 years old. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
98.
Mm.
So they had this big parade and they brought back the dead Avengers. So at that point, Mockingbird was allegedly dead. Hellcat, Dr. Druid, um, uh, Thunderstrike, that's his name, right? The 90s Thor, Eric Masterson. Is that his name? No, I forgot
I
his
want
name.
to say,
But you remember he was like, the
Yeah.
90s version of Thor with the little leather jacket and everything. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So
yeah, yeah, that is his name because he was called Thunderstrike. Yeah.
because I haven't read the issue in a long time, but some things stay with you.
Yeah.
Mm.
But of course, that was the main issue with the dead Avengers getting revenge against the ones who were still living. But it was also the I wouldn't say the accumulation, but it was like the finale of Wanda finding out what she could really do. So as her teammates are enjoying, the festivities, she took the Rolls Royce out to what is the name of where Agatha lived? Whisper Hill. 'Cause that's because she has a manor
Yeah.
there. And so it was my first time seeing them, really interact. And you see Agatha, discuss her powers, and as she's discussing the powers, she's holding on to Ebony, her familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wanda was trying to figure out how is it that I'm able to bring back Wonder Man, because every time we're fighting, his spirit manifests, and he's able to, either rescue me or help out with the team. how do I get him to stay permanently? And so at the end of that issue, Agatha starts laughing. She's like, I'm surprised you would ask me such a simple question. And she was like, well, why do you think it's simple? And she's like, well, because all you have to do to keep him here on this plane is to love him. So, Wanda, when she goes saves her teammates, she finally manifests Wonder Man, and he's able to stay on this plane. So right there, you saw that she was incredibly powerful. She held on to someone's soul, and she had a tether to her body. And this was being scratched. This was being addressed 23 years ago.
Yes.
So for me, flash forward to them announcing Wanda Maximoff being in the Avengers sequel, Age of Ultron, which I am not a fan of because of what they do to Quicksilver, but it's a whole other story. When they announced that she would be in it, I knew that at some point we would have a WandaVision type thing, because one of the biggest couples, one of the biggest love stories in comic books was Scarlet Witch and Vision, because she was, this unusual character. She was always, kind of the outsider. She didn't fit in, with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, with her brother, Quicksilver. And with the Avengers, she was just, a little creepy, if we're being honest. And then she falls in love with, with a machine. And so Quicksilver, he hated it. He was like, and I think there's a panel where they did like a flashback, and he's like, Wanda, you married a toaster. And it's just like,
I mean, he's not
he's
wrong.
not wrong, but it was just like, but when you read those comic books, it's like you really didn't see Vision as, a robot, because he was feeling, he was an android who could cry,
Yeah. Because there were those little nods to humanity that he would do.
Because he was he's more human than a lot of his human, teammates.
Yes. Yep.
And so for me, back then as a teenager, reading, these amazing stories, they had the love triangle. She finally moved on from Vision because he said she was no longer, beholden to him, because they no longer were a couple, because he had died, because he was disassembled, or dismantled rather. And she starts dating his brother, Wonder Man. So you had all that going on, all this drama. And like for me personally, when Kurt left the book, like I was probably in my early 20s. I wasn't reading as much. I was in college, whatever. I mean, who could afford books, right?
Sure.
But when he left, I think what's his name? Is it Brian Michael Bendis, or is it Michael Brian Bendis? The Bendis.
Brian Michael Bendis.
Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah, Brian Michael Bendis. Yeah.
Anyway, he's trash. When he, I mean, I can't. It turns to shit. And when he did the Avengers Disassemble storyline,
yeah.
When he did that, and Vision, he betrays the team because all these Ultrons are popping out of him. Then Jack of Hearts,
Yes.
He goes off, he blows up the mansion. Scott Lang is killed in the blast. She-Hulk, all of a sudden she becomes super angry and irrational, and she backslaps the shit out of the Wasp, and she's in a coma. And I'm like, what is going on? The Kree comes out of nowhere and starts attacking Earth. Hawkeye dies in battle, and you're like, you just took all these amazing characters and you just killed them seemingly for no reason. And then when you find out that the true villain behind it was the Scarlet Witch, because of her children were revealed to be, hidden from her.
Mm-hmm.
So he pretty much took a storyline from 1989 in West Coast Avengers.
Yes.
So he took that storyline, he rehashed it, and he made her this villain who killed her teammates. And then you have Doctor Strange, arrive, because this is where we headed, even for the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Strange he arrives, and he's like, there's no such thing as chaos magic. And it's like, yes, the fuck it is. Kurt said it was. He told us this, a few years prior to that. And they had that big battle, and then we had that cool scene where Magneto he arrives, and he's like, "Give me my daughter." And You know how they retcon, Magneto being her father. So it's just like you guys are destroying my characters. Yes, I don't own them, but they're still mine.
But they are yours. Yes.
They belong to me. So for me, even though they were abused for the longest time, particularly Wanda and Vision, and they moved on from each other. She started dating Doctor Voodoo. Is that his name? Yeah,
Yeah.
she started dating him briefly when she was an Uncanny Avenger, and then Vision.
Hmm.
Even before Bendis took over the book, when Wanda was dating Simon Wonder Man, Vision went out on a date with Carol Danvers. I remember that in one issue. And it was kind of like weird because it's like, oh, well, I mean, Wanda can get a freak on, but Vision, you shouldn't because you're a toaster.
Yeah. Well, it's awkward to think of. I mean, if you think about your toy going out with somebody else,
Because he
like
was
that's kind
toy.
of weird. There's a lot of layers that we can go through. I'm just saying. But it's the same thing. Like if your favorite toy ends up like if it's not in your nightstand, you look around like where's that? And you see
Yeah.
that it's outside walking around with whoever, and you're like, wait, what's going on? Even though
Even-
you're just had somebody over. I mean, I don't know.
It's like, even if I don't use you,
Yeah.
you're nice man.
I mean, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just put some fresh batteries in you. Like where you going?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you mad rude. But that's just me. Just saying.
But yes, I'm just glad that Disney, Marvel Studios, were able to, I wouldn't say cherry pick, but they were able to take the best out of
Yeah.
iconic storylines. They took what I guess you can kind of look at it. They took Avengers Disassembled in some ways. Um, well, definitely the ending. With
Mhm.
Doctor Strange. The illusion. For Doctor Strange to come. Um, deal with Wanda, which we know that's where we're headed. For the next movie.
Exactly.
But I love seeing for instance, so I was talking to my friend Dax yesterday, and we were raving about this the final episode, and 'cause we're doing spoilers, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We're doing
Yes.
spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for anybody who
Okay. Yeah,
hasn't seen it
spoiler
yet.
alert.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
So, what I loved about her observation was that when Wanda had her tiara, when it finally formed, when it finished, materializing, if you look closely in the middle, there's Magneto's helmet. Yeah, and it was like I looked at it, and it was like it was his helmet that was more in line with Age of Apocalypse. So you know how sharp it was,
Oh, yeah. Oh.
and it's right there in the middle. And then when I was talking to another friend of mine, Sean, we were just talking about it, before I went on with you guys, and there are so many parallels to Magneto. Like even like
Oh, yeah.
when Wanda, remember when she emerged from the hex and she was holding the missile,
Mm-hmm.
she makes the soldiers target each other.
Mm-hmm.
That was from the X-Men movie, the first one with
Yep.
Magneto. So was it really surprising? And it was when she formed her costume. Her costume is pretty much the female version of Magneto's costume in X-Men Apocalypse. I mean, even down to like the
Facts.
color,
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is this Marvel's way of warming up to the fact that, okay, let's bring Magneto back into the forefront as being her biological parent, her father, because
As far as the comics or in the MCU?
well, why not both?
Okay.
I mean,
I have no problem with that at all. I have none.
because
I have
you
none.
look at it wouldn't make sense for them to just do the MCU. It's like, no, fix the shit that you messed up from Axis in 2014 and bring it back in line. I mean, we went from what 1982 to 2014, with Magneto being the father.
Mm-hmm.
We even had the what was that storyline in the early '90s where the acolyte Fabian Cortez he kidnapped Luna?
Oh, damn.
Was it? It wasn't Fatal Attractions, was it? No, it wasn't Fatal Attractions.
Oh, damn.
Brian, I know you're watching this. What was that? Shit.
Oh, my God.
But you know what I'm talking about, because
Yeah,
that's when
yes,
the
yes.
Avengers and the X-Men were actually clashing, and
Mm-hmm.
they fought, and then they teamed up in Genosha.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Magneto was trying to get back his granddaughter at the time, Luna,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something like that's like no, we had these stories even when Magneto became the ruler of Genosha. The Avengers dispatched the Scarlet Witch to investigate. So you had the whole father daughter scene with her checking out the fields and hey,
Mm-hmm.
how's he treating you? It was just it just added such a cool element, and it showed that they were all connected really. The Avengers and the X-Men,
Mm-hmm.
and even like when you had the Onslaught saga. Now, for me, that was the event that got me into comic books. Ever since, ever since then, I've been very much immersed in this world. So when the Onslaught saga came out in 1996, I was 12, going on 13 that summer, and I remember being blown away. Like, oh my God, who is this? This character who's able to, beat Juggernaut, you know, across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it was revealed that it was Professor X and Jean was trying to get, Kane out the mansion, and you've never seen him scared, Juggernaut, because it's the Juggernaut.
Right.
Him not knowing who Onslaught was, he charges into Xavier's, study, and he sees the don't forget the hover chair he had, the little um
Mm-hmm.
the cartoons that was
Yep.
turned over because he had just realized his dark secret, and then who comes out the shadows? Onslaught, and he picks up Juggernaut, and he removes the how do you say, the
Sidorak.
Sidorak gem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, like as a 12-year-old, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Drooling. As I'm reading this, like how when you're watching like some animes and the anime shows, and the kid goes crazy, and then you see him smiling, and there's a big teardrop, and there's the blood coming out his nostril, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was that kid with the bloody nostril and the big teardrop right there. That was me. So, like that particular storyline, they touched on, the Avengers coming to the X-Men's aid. So, also had just finished, beating them up. So they were like broken and battered. The mansion was destroyed, and as the Avengers arrived in their Quinjet, you see Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. They're looking around, and then when they disembark or whatever, there's a cool scene where Bishop, he holds a gun to Quicksilver's head. And it's like, let's see who's faster. So it was like, because Bishop he's a badass character. Like I will always love Bishop.
Mm.
I will always love how
Yes.
Bill Mad illustrates Bishop. He gave him the low fade, and he had the little
Yes.
goats going on. I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
was a black person, not wearing a Jerry curl from his first appearance. I did not like that bushy ponytail. But anyway, um, but that scene, they even touched on, because I think it was Wolverine. He was like, "Hey, this is your dad did this," and then Wanda's like, Magneto, he was here. So it's like, this was woven into the storylines, into the tapestry that is the Marvel universe, and for them
Mm-hmm.
to just, cut it was just it was so stupid. So I hope that they are in process of good, getting back to that,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe in Wanda. Okay, Wanda had her own comic book for a bit in 2015, The Scarlet
Yeah.
Witch, and I read a few issues and then I fell off. But I remember them touching on that she was not the first Scarlet Witch. Her mother, her biological mother, was the
Mm-hmm.
Scarlet Witch, and her mother was, and so forth. So for them to take that, that revelation and put into the TV series, it's like we need more. I
Yeah.
need.
Like this actually made me want to go and read that series because I had read that series. The
I'm
last thing
gonna
I
read.
read, yeah, the last thing I read was Vision, with Tom King's series, your 12 issues, which is utterly amazingly
I
written.
heard it was. I haven't read it yet, but
It's utterly amazing in how it deconstructs like everyday life, but and you're looking at it through the eyes of a synthoid. Like it's just really great, honestly. Michael, you're that's as the MCU ambassador. Your thoughts on WandaVision?
I pretty much posted an emphatic declaration after seeing the season finale yesterday that I didn't care what anybody said, that I thought this was the perfect way to bring us back into the MCU. It's brilliant.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's utterly brilliant. And for all the people who were hyper critical about this at the very beginning,
Yes.
none of your opinions matter. Like they don't matter because you didn't hang in long enough to get the payoff. You know what I mean? And I remember, you and I, Antonio, in a previous show talking about this. Like, I remember saying that the first two episodes were probably the air quotes for people who can't see when they listen to this as a podcast. Um, those were probably the two worst episodes of the entire first season. And they had to be because there was so much exposition that was coming. They couldn't give you everything right away. They just couldn't. You know, um, and through the lens of me personally being someone who's, you know, lost some people close to me in the last year and things like that, I completely agree with Malachi's assessment on it, being a show about grief and what people who are going through grief kind of. I don't want to use the word crutch here because I feel like the word crutch is almost too crass a word to use for people who are going through grief. But it's about the things we do to kind of cope in those situations when we lose people, right? And it like I didn't know I didn't know that this was the kind of show that I wanted post Endgame, because they don't really tell you anything about how Wanda is feeling in that last moments of Endgame. Like, it's basically just her coming back, being a part of the team again, and almost single-handedly defeating Thanos on her own, that he has to order a colossal airstrike to get her off of him. You know what I mean? But, in that very last scene when they're at, Tony's sort of memorial service, Wanda doesn't really say a whole lot. You know what I mean? Other than kind of, wishing that Vision was there to know that they won. You know what I mean? And it's just a brilliant way to sort of expound upon that little moment of her quietly grieving at the end of Endgame, and to see what her grief was like from her perspective after that. You know what I mean? And like, I too would like to see another season, but I don't want to see it rushed. I want to see how they kind of do this thing that they're gonna do with Doctor Strange, in that sequel. I think that they made some very interesting choices in this show that now lead me to believe that they may be trying to make some other things that previously they said they weren't really trying to make canon now. Especially when they introduced the Darkhold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the Darkhold has been throughout, these MCU spinoffs especially Marvel Television for a while. Like the Darkhold was on the Runaways. The
Shield too. Also,
Darkhold
yep.
was on
Shield.
Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's really interesting the things that they're doing here. Like the whole fact that Wanda now is going to somehow meet up with Doctor Strange and try and understand what her abilities are and what is going on. I'm wondering now, are they possibly going to, maybe refer to and forgive me for not remembering her name right now, the sorceress character that's in the Runaways.
Nikki, what's it? Nikki, something like the
I
staff.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, with the staff. Can't remember
Yeah,
her name either.
yeah, I can't think of her name
Nico.
offhand.
Nico.
Nico, yes,
Miko.
thank you, Nico. She was one of my favorite characters on the Runaway show while it was on, and literally in the last season, probably that last episode of the Runaways, Nico talks about having just. She indirectly talks about it because she doesn't name drop at all, but you know exactly what she's talking about. She talks about having just been, you know, with Doctor Strange to kind of harness her abilities.
Hmm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I'm wondering, like I always do with the MCU, because they brilliantly do this. Where is this all going, and how much of it are they willing to say is canon and connected? It's just a brilliant show, and the acting that we got, Tiana Paris,
Yes.
Tiana Paris. I love everything that they're doing with Monica Rambeau on this show, and
Hmm.
and nothing is wasted because, again, and I said this to Antonio in a previous show, that I feel like a lot of that dialogue with her and Carol and all that other stuff has to be from the future Captain Marvel 2 movie. It has to be. You know what I mean? Like they're just kind of putting that in there to kind of whet your appetite for what's coming. And I just want to give a really huge shout out to Catherine Hahn,
Yes.
Oh,
who played
definitely.
Agatha in this show. She
Smashed it.
she
Smashed it.
killed it. She just
Smashed it.
absolutely killed it in every scene she was in, until the big reveal of you knowing exactly who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was just masterstroke casting by them, and I also am one that would love to see, like, if they were talking about redoing a kind of Agents of Shield show. I'd love for Randall Park to be a part of it.
Oh, yeah, good old Jimmy.
And yeah,
He,
like,
he has to be in there somewhere. Him
yeah,
as well as Kat Denning.
yeah. Kat Denning. Kat Denning
They
is also
confirmed it.
very brilliant to bring her back the way they brought her back at the time they brought her back. I mean, if this is what we can expect from these Marvel shows, like, let's do it. Let's further this universe as much as we can with these shows in between movies, and then introduce new characters proper from the shows into movies. Like, I'm all for it
Hmm.
Yeah,
completely.
this is. I'm always more a fan of a series, especially with a subject matter like this, because you can go a little deeper. You can give more story, which they did. Like this is actually making me think. Yeah, I like the movies, but give me more series. I'm happy
Yeah,
with the series. First thoughts on it are I'm glad, not because of the circumstances, obviously, because of the pandemic, but I'm glad that we didn't get a Marvel property until now.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because it was, let's be honest, we enjoy Marvel, the MCU, we enjoy it, but it was a bit of an oversaturation. And I like the idea of leave your crowd wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, we kind of, I mean, I was so drained from Endgame. I was like, "Oof, I can't wait." Spider-Man. All right, yeah, I got one more in me. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go. But it's you start getting drained. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, you
yeah,
know
yeah.
what? Let me get some Gatorade. Let me just, get a quick 10-minute nap, and I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Because sometimes
it's
you
always
need
good to have a break, you know?
exactly because sometimes you need more than 30 minutes for your next go around. But anyway,
Absolutely.
Ah, ah,
now, uh, especially the older you get, so. eh, but and it came at the right time, oddly enough. I don't know how like Marvel Entertainment, Disney do this, but they come at the right place at the right time, like they're there. You know what I mean? All right, taking everything that the whole MCU storytelling, lore and stuff like that, putting it in a sitcom setting and going full out sitcom like vibe with it and still making it pertinent
yeah.
is phenomenal creative thing. Like just that being like, so what are we gonna do? Let's make it a sitcom. What? Explain. Okay, well this is how we and go through that. I wish I had been in the room when this was pitched and in the writers' room when they were going through it all. I wish I had been there. That's amazing to me. So doing that, and as it progresses, it gets darker and more like a thriller,
Mm-hmm.
a chilling kind of vibe. Like you don't know, very suspenseful. Like you don't know. You go from these corny, 50s, 50, 60s sitcoms, haha, to very chilling, oh, I don't know where your kids are at. I mean, they're probably in the basement playing. When has that ever turned out right? When has anyone ever said children in the basement is playing is turned out right? Never. You've never heard it. Never. Secondly, the acting. Look, this isn't Cap, it's not Iron Man, it's not Thor. So people are always saying these are background characters. These are, and I say this in no disrespectful way, these are the West Coast Avengers,
Mm-hmm.
the team people don't really think about. But you gave us these characters who had these deep, rich stories that weren't getting as much play in the movies, and you gave us that time. And you gave us a lot of time. Well, I should say you gave us a lot in a span of 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lesson for CW and that filler that you do, folks. Anyway, don't do it, Malachi. Don't do it. But you gave us all that, and I'm gonna say straight up, giving us these characters and their backstory because their backstory is really deep, and you see it, and you're like, and for people who don't know the comics, I'm so happy that they saw it and they were like, wait, all this is happening, and maybe this will go and make them go, let me go and read this. Let me go read this. So they'll see the backstory and they'll be like, oh wow, this is great seeing that there's much more depth to these characters. Acting, yes, we have Elizabeth Olsen who did it, who went from
Yeah.
the doting 50, 60 sitcom wife to the big bad,
Yeah.
a la Willow, possibly.
The black hands.
Yes. And Paul Bettany, shout out to him
Yeah.
because seeing him without the makeup, being him, this cat is in makeup for how long in a day? And he got to show himself and he got to show that range of, wait, what's happening? What's going on? And he found like little agency in there.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine Hahn is so underrated, and now you're seeing what she can do. Everybody thinks of her from maybe like Anchorman.
Yeah.
Lady, yes, yes. And now we see her in this. She has this incredible mix of comedic timing, dramatic chops, and this incredibly sinister and chilling smile that you don't know whether to laugh, cry, or hide all the knives because you don't know what else she's gonna do. So one of the things I do love about the MCU is that they'll give you actors that you go, oh yeah, well, who are they playing? Oh well, these like character maybe B C level actors that you don't really think too much about. These quote unquote TV actors,
Mm-hmm.
Gesundheit, type brother,
Thank you.
because TV is where it's at now. TV and streaming is where it's at.
Yeah.
So let's remember that, folks.
Yeah.
And giving them these, when you give someone a role like this and you give them, well, this is what they're in depth, and a character who has decades of backstory that you can draw from. So it's not like you have to go, so what's my character's motivation? I'll tell you what, Here's a password for Marvel Unlimited. Here's a password for Comixology.
Exactly.
Enjoy
This is your
yourself.
backstory.
Yeah.
Or you can
Why?
do what some other actors did. They went to comic book shops and said, "What do you got for this character? What's the best stuff?"
Mm-hmm.
And going through that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Tiana Paris. I'm gonna give you all of the botanical gardeners because you need all the flowers. You need every damn flower available. You need from azalea to a rhododendron. Put a couple of ficuses up in it. I don't whatever. You brought a character that I've been wanting and waiting for and
Mm-hmm.
yearning for to
Mm-hmm.
life. Thank you for giving. And your episode 4, was one of the most powerful, most beautiful things possible because you were. That shows the immediacy of what happens after the blip.
Hmm.
You don't
Yeah.
know that you've been gone. You don't know. You just haven't existed. You didn't die. You didn't. Well, I mean, that's debatable about
Yeah.
what happens when you die, but whatever. But you were just didn't exist. You possibly were in another universe place. We don't know. Maybe we'll get the story of what happened during the blip to the people who were blipped. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You came back sitting by your mother's bedside.
Mm.
She had passed
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You come back in the most chaotic place possible, a hospital where already everything is going on, surgeries and meds, what have you
Mm-hmm.
going on, and then you have people who were already in surgery, possibly being blipped back.
Oh,
People who people who were in the middle of dying, brought back. People who were in the middle of childbirth, blipped back, but the baby was already out. So now you're trying to deal with the fact that you got a 5-year-old and you only been back for about
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
mm.
There's a lot to think about in that area, and you're wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
And the doctors and everything can't really tell you because they're trying to deal with everything that's going on normally, and then everyone who's been brought back. That's just such a chaotic scene, and we focus on this incredibly strong, but you can tell that she's cracking black woman who is trying to figure everything out, coming back. There's a lot there, and you brought Monica back, and I can't wait to see what you do with Monica. When
Yeah.
just oh my god, the seeing Monica is one of my. It makes me want to go back and read Next Wave, because I love that book. Is I love it's because Monica tells stories about all the Avengers, like Captain America once asked me to make him a sandwich, and I'm like, did that actually happen? And I didn't care because it was just such a good story. Randall Park,
Mm.
Yeah.
dude, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, you are getting your shine. You're getting your shine. You also have Young Rock going on right now, where he's the interviewer
Mm-hmm.
who's interviewing The Rock
Mm-hmm.
because The Rock is running for president in the series. Amazing stuff. Geez, wow. Kat Denning, yes, 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 yes. Bring her back out of nowhere from what was the last one she was in? Was it Thor?
Ooh,
Dark
The
Dark
Dark World.
Dark
yeah.
World, which nobody
Yeah.
really wants to talk about too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, thank you, Kat Denning. She also has a show on Hulu, which is out. So I actually want to go watch that now because I enjoy Kat Denning.
Mm-hmm.
It just everything just felt right. Everything felt awesome, and I'm glad that they went the darker supernatural route. I've been wanting this for a minute. I've been wanting this for a while because I love supernatural dark. I want that for a minute. Seeing the two of them go back and forth, and it's seeing Agatha and Wanda go back and forth, and then retelling her life, well, the life events that happened and what led up to it,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing everything that you watch in the movies, and them telling you, and you're like, okay, that's a story. Now seeing that Stark weapon land
Mhm.
in the house, and
Yeah.
how do you retcon in a movie? Oh, I know. Let's wash away everything that you did, and let's give Catherine Hahn that line. Like, oh, so you stopped the bomb without even and being so vague and being so wonderfully sinister with it. Oh God, yes. Oh jeez.
Yeah, and
Mm.
what's interesting too is I listen. Age of Ultron is what it is, right? Age of Ultron has the unfortunate distinction of coming after Avengers, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of why most people aren't that crazy about Age of Ultron, right? Because I think we all were expecting something even bigger after Avengers, and Age of Ultron kind of doesn't get to that level. But now with WandaVision, And I'm not saying it completely redeems Age of Ultron, but if you watch now Age of Ultron through the lens of
Mm-hmm.
WandaVision,
Yep.
it makes Age of Ultron a little bit better of a film, and it almost deepens the backstory of Age of Ultron completely through
E-
Wanda's eyes.
Exactly.
You know what
It's
I mean? And
I
that's
enjoy the
hard to
movie.
do. That's hard to do after the fact.
I
Yeah.
like it, but again,
Yeah,
the Quicksilver thing that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't,
yeah,
I can't go
Yeah.
back to that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and
Hey,
shout out to Ethan Peters for giving us the biggest
Evan
swerve
Peters.
possible. Oh, Evan, thank you, Evan, for giving us the biggest swerve possible.
Yeah, yeah,
Because when they
yeah,
showed the back of that head, and
yeah.
again, it was in perfect
yeah,
90s
Yep.
sitcom way. Hey, we're almost to the end of the series. Ratings
Yeah.
are low. Let's bring in an edgy new character and see what
Mm-hmm.
happens.
cool
Mm-hmm.
cousin.
Yes, yes. And then you go, and when and Kat Denning delivers the line like everyone else was delivering it. Wait, they recast Pietro?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So meta, so fourth wall breaking without breaking
Mm-hmm.
this was, you know, who could have been in this easily? Deadpool, because of how they broke
Yeah.
the, just because of that, not because of storyline, folks. Just
Mm-hmm.
calm down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But because of how they did that, this was some Deadpool-esque, right? I swear, like Deadpool wrote this
He did.
because you know what I mean. And
Mm-hmm.
so this was just, and the doing the 5 stages of grief so wonderfully again in a time where unfortunately a lot of us have lost
Mm-hmm.
loved ones
Mm-hmm.
because of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes all we have is a solace of what's going on our TV, and we have all the streaming
Mm-hmm.
services and everything, but for something to entertain us, but also talk to us
Yeah.
Yeah.
and to give us that solace, not just by entertaining us, but also soothing us by saying even superheroes have grief, and even they're trying to deal with it in the best way they can.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do? What
Yeah.
would you do if you could bring that person back?
Yeah.
This was on some Hal Jordan Green Lantern bringing back Coast City type of vibe,
Mm-hmm.
because your grief is so much and you have all this power and you
Mm-hmm.
can't bring back the ones you love.
Mm-hmm.
That not trying to get too deep, folks. I'm sure there will be more jokes where I'll say something stupid about 43-year-old men not lasting long. I promise. So look,
Well,
we all have our off days. So
Mm-hmm.
no, but to do that was just really great. It just, there was, you know what is messed up, and I didn't realize it because I even said, "Hey, stay till the end of credits."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the Doctor Strange part. I didn't see that part.
oh,
I didn't see that scene. I didn't see that scene. I got to we started doing the credits for the other languages, such like that. I got
yeah.
to those credits, and I was like, "All right, so I'm good." All right, I made the biggest mistake
He
of
did.
any person that's in the theater. So now, you know what I got to do? I got to go back and watch it. Boo hoo! Now I get to enjoy it all over again.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
that.
yeah, so to be able, and these stories will never end because there's decades of source material, and the MCU will never really end because we can keep going. And it's just like in the comics, or when you're done reading a trade, at the end that arc is ending, but then you're getting a little bit that's going to lead to the next one, the next story, the next issue. And I love how they format that. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. Excuse me. Um, and oh yes, this is actually one of the best things I've seen as far as our comments. I could see Deadpool delivering the they recast Pietro line while looking into the camera. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
They
yeah,
may just even do that at some point. You know how
yeah. They honestly could because I mean Darcy was watching it on TV as we were watching it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So extremely meta. Thank you for that, King Credo. That was actually a really cool line. That really was. That really was cool. Yeah. So continuing on, Malachi, Wingless Comics, Kickstarter, Nightfall Part Two. What's going on? Give us backstory on Wingless Comics and the Nightfall Kickstarters.
okay. So Nightfall was actually in the works before I even became, involved with Wingless.
Mhm.
It was always something that was going to happen, and I just happened to, be brought in while they were still forming the story.
Mm.
Well, we're not so much forming the story, but still very much in the planning stages of it.
Mm.
And basically, it's a collaboration, between Wingless Comics and Constant Hustle Comics.
Mm.
So the indie comic book community, it's still relatively small. It's still
Yes.
growing. It's still, finding its footing or whatever. But Brian had this idea to do a crossover. That was one of his dreams because he and I were big fans of comic books, from the 80s and the 90s. But
Yes.
if you remember in the 90s, they always had those blockbuster, summer events,
Yes.
and when I say 90s, I'm not saying all of the 90s, only the good things. I'm
Yeah.
not including Image or anything like that.
Right.
I'm thinking about Marvel, DC. If you think about DC, remember how epic was it? Nightfall? Yeah,
Yes.
well, with Batman.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You had that going on. Again, Fatal Attractions, from the X-Men storyline, and it was those big stories that you felt like you could do anything. You felt the energy in the page. Even
Hmm.
with the cartoons, we had Batman the animated series that came out in '92.
Yep.
And a month later, you had the X-Men animated series. So, with us being, children, with us being, so, you know, we were like sponges. We absorbed all of that.
Hmm.
And we wanted to honor those stories. We want to honor that legacy by creating our own. So we teamed up with Constant Hustle. Lawrence, he brought over his character, Avery the Astonishing.
Mm. Yes.
She's a former military, soldier. I believe she was in the Marines, and
Yes.
she has the power to channel like a white star. I want to say white star. So she's incredibly powerful. Personally, I call her she's the Superman out of our lineup.
Hmm.
She's like she's that powerful. Then of course, for Wingless, we have the flagship character Justice. He is an angel. Who happens to have these long braids. Who I do look
Yes.
great. Little goatee and everything.
Yes.
There's no mistaking that this is a black angel.
Hmm.
Um, then we have Caliburn, who is this hooded character who is dealing with all things occult. So if you think about, the archetypes that are presented in DC, you have Superman, and you have Batman. Well, in Wingless, we have Justice and you have Caliburn. They're
Mm.
just like two sides of the same coin or whatever. Then we have Lux, who is I don't want to say she's our Black Jubilee, but she's the spunky, ingenue, that's part of our
Okay.
unit. She we had a lot of fun coming up with her because we wanted to connect with the younger demographic. So we make sure she dressed the part because the way I tried to dress her, they was like, no, it's still a little too, risque, her breasts are a little too big, and the outfit is a little too tight. So we actually we got Brian's sister Jordan to be a consultant with designing the way she looks, and
Oh.
we're actually going to release her comic book, the comic book later on this year, um, self-titled Lux. So we're excited about her.
Mm.
And speaking of her, my own baby, my yes, my immortal, my nameless woman. She will also be featured in the Nightfall story. And the way we do it in this issue that we're getting ready to release once we finish the Kickstarter, now I think everybody will be satisfied. They'll be excited, and they're going to want issue number 3 to come out.
Now, this is I love the fact that you're trying to do this crossover when an event was an actual event. When it
Yes.
didn't happen, because nowadays it seems like every arc is an event, and it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be. You can leave that, that kind of I want to say it started with kind of Marvel with when it had Secret Invasion. Then it was felt like every couple of months. It
Mm.
wasn't like a big blockbuster movie. It was like every month. It was like, oh my god, this is happening. And I don't mind. Obviously, I love storytelling and everything like that. But you don't have to go that difficult with everything. Like if every day it's an event, it just becomes an occurrence. It's not an event. It's just something that happens every day. It's Wednesday. Okay, cool. You know what I mean? So I love that mindset and getting back to that era of comics of doing that when a big crossover meant something. It was truly an event. And I love the fact of the comic book companies, indie comic book companies, and indie comic book companies with people of color, and different backgrounds, starting to network and get together with this. So I love that fact. The Kickstarter ends. I'm trying to remember when.
March 21st.
March 21st. Okay,
Mhm.
and you have some incredible tiers.
Yes, we do.
But trying to remember which one I backed. I think it may have been the ketchup.
Well, hold on. I'll
Possibly.
tell you. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. Oh, damn. I'm gonna put my business out there. All right, cool.
Because we have, we try to make it a fun, experience for everybody.
Yes.
So, and you can't make it fun if you have, crappy options to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
We have tiers that include the digital,
Mm-hmm.
comics. So if you want to just get on the digital, parts one and part two, you can do that. But if you wanted to get the physical copies, you could also do that. If you wanted to get the actual, oh, I almost forgot. So, since we are discussing, the community, we also wanted to present those comics as well. So we have, I want to say, 23 indie comics you can get as digital comics for the $60 tier, no,
Mm-hmm.
$40 tier. So if you're familiar with Isnana the Were Spider, you can get that
Yes.
digital, comic book.
Yes.
So that's included. We have Robert Jeffrey. He does Route 3. That's
Yes.
still included in the digital tier. So we try to, like, we're not just talking about community. We want to foster those connections, those bonds. You want to spread the word.
Mhm.
Then of course,
Exactly.
we want you to wear our merchandise. So we have, the T-shirt. So we have the Her shirt that you can choose from. Um, One of our popular shirts. We have, the Outcast cover when it shows, the gold
Yes.
fist.
Yes.
We
Mhm.
have
Yes.
we have that for Justice and Caliburn. That's
Mm-hmm.
always a very popular one. Of course, Justice by himself, and Caliburn has his own shirt as well. So, oh, and of course we have, if you are into, like, collecting, like, statues and mini busts and the pops, we have that
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're looking for something great and you're looking for a new comic book to get into, a new comic book series, and you want to get a little taste of everybody that's out there, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of great creators out there, who are putting in phenomenal work on books, and maybe you haven't heard of them, but this is a great thing to do because everybody's helping everyone.
Yep.
It's truly, as you were saying, a community where everyone helps everyone. If you shine, we all shine. If I shine, it's everybody is sharing that. It's not just like, oh, you know what, this is me. I don't want you a part of this. It's everybody's like, oh, hey, you know what? I was wondering if you could be a part of this Kickstarter. If you're willing to, put your issues here, what have you. It's great, and your tiers are amazing. There are great rewards involved, like Malachi was saying, from digital to the print,
Mhm.
to a combination, to T-shirts, to busts. There are a lot of great things out there, and you know what? It's cool to have something that you might not find in a store
Mhm.
yet, and to be able to do that. What has this whole thing been like as far as, because this isn't your first Kickstarter. I want to say, as far as you.
Um, so we actually released our first Kickstarter. It was in June. It was for
Mhm.
Justice Number One,
Mm,
and Justice Number One, it included, her number zero, which was, her first appearance.
right.
It also included Caliber number one. We did extremely well with that. It was, people were very receptive to what we were doing, and we had a lot of fun. We were able to get funded within the hour. So that was,
Wow.
it was hella impressive. Then we decided to launch Nightfall Part 1 this past October.
Hmm.
So, we enjoyed doing that. That was also funded. And of course, we're doing the current one. So the current Kickstarter for Part 1, no, for Part 2, A Cold Wind Blows, we were funded within 32 hours. And right now, we are about $40 shy of our stretch goal number 2.
Mm.
And we still have 2 weeks left. So, I mean, I'm always want to hustle and make sure that people are aware of what we're doing.
Mm.
But of course, it can be a little draining. It
Of
can be
course.
nerve-wracking. We were asked in the previous interview, what is the best part of the Kickstarter?
Hmm.
The answer is when it's over.
I kind of saw that coming. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
You know.
you take that collective sigh of relief, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so now we can start the fun stuff. We can start doing fulfillment.
Right.
Even though you may hit your goal, the pledge amount, we still want to fund future books.
Hmm.
This is going to fund number 3, and then number 3's Kickstarter is going to fund number 4, and so forth.
Right.
But me personally, I love this issue, but it really does get better with each one.
Hmm.
So because it's a 5-part story that we're doing. So I want to say like 4 and 5 are just like when I go through the script every so often, because I do that because I want to bask in it.
Right. Okay.
It hits all the right notes.
Hmm.
It takes me out of the role as editor. Um, it brings me back to Malachi in 1996, being like 12 years old, reading the Onslaught saga. Because you see all these characters come together for this huge, cataclysmic event, and
Hmm.
it's like, are you gonna sink or float, or sink or swim? Are you going to meet the challenges head on, or are you going to be consumed by the darkness? So that's something that we take great pride in presenting in our stories. We want to continue to keep doing this. Not just for 2021, but for 2022 and so forth.
Hmm.
We're just blessed and very grateful for the opportunity to keep promoting Wingless, Nightfall, and the next big event.
Hmm. Well, this is beautiful because it has to start somewhere, and like you're saying, to keep going. In 2021, to keep going like this, because this is how you grow and you become an institution. You become, where it's a comic where you don't have to maybe like think about it like and push so much like, oh, have you seen this? And people haven't seen it, and you go like when people start thinking, you know what? I don't think I got the next issue of her. I don't think I got that issue. Like when it starts playing in your head, like, I read that a few months ago, but I don't think I read issue 3 or issue 4. And then you go, oh, then people start actively going looking for it. And that's a beautiful thing that I love about this too, is that consistency.
Yes,
Consistency is key
it is.
in when you are a content provider, whether it is comics, whether it's a podcast, whether it is an album, whether it's a movie, it's what have you. Consistency is key. And I like the fact that you're consistent and your time frame,
Hmm.
and it's not, and this is no shade because everyone had to kind of figure this out and work their way through it, but some indie comics would come out with an issue 1 or an issue 2, and it would be a couple years in between.
We can't. We don't have the time to
Yeah.
issue. Like, no, you want to take it and like it frequently.
I
Throughout the
mean,
year.
well, damn, man, damn, bro.
I'm,
Damn, bro. Yeah, all right, man. Damn. All right. Should I leave? I mean, damn. I feel some kind of way. Lord. But and again, that's no shade to people who have done that, because it's you're trying to figure out, it's hard, and
yeah,
we don't know as much as we do now. Everyone's learning as they go.
yeah,
The good thing about being in isolation is that you have more time to think, to find new ways, to figure yourself out, to plan ahead for something. Maybe you have a day off where you don't have to work from home. You can just do, and you go, you know what? You bring up your laptop or your desk, what have you, and you start working on whatever you got to do. So you're ahead, because you want to be ahead and you want to be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Hmm.
And I love that, you know, because I don't think, and this is why I got the tier that I did. I don't think that I was a part of the first Nightfall Kickstarter. I have Justice Zero and Justice One, and I have Avery, which I read the other day, and oh my god, yes,
She's great.
I want more. That's I need characters like that. I need
Hmm.
uh, female characters who are just strong fighters. Everything. I don't want to damage the trust. Don't give me a Jean Grey. Don't give me somebody who's passing out every
We
two
could
minutes.
never give you a
No.
Jean Grey.
Do not give me no Jean Grey. I don't want to, pass out every 5 minutes because you got a headache. I don't need that. Give me somebody who is just straight up giving somebody uppercuts and knees to the gut and fighting.
Well, and
You know
Tony,
what
I
I mean?
don't want to spoil anything, but when I was talking about it, face. So you know how we were talking about number four and number five.
Yes.
There's some major epic shit that goes down.
Okay.
With characters. So it's all about the anticipation is about the build up. But I told Lawrence before, and I told because Brian and I we speak I want to say on a daily basis. At least a
Okay.
day. And I enjoy the character. I think she looks amazing.
Yes.
She takes no shit, and she
Hmm.
wants to hold to the moon, and not break a sweat. So I love the character. I'm glad that she is in the story. I'm glad that she is a big part of this story. So
Yeah.
that's just me, tooting her horn. That sounds wrong, but
Yeah. No, 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 no. Sometimes you need your tool horn or your horn tooted. However you choose to get down. I'm saying I'm not gonna put myself out there, but wink, wink.
whichever needs to be tooted,
Um,
right?
I'm saying we all got something. But just having like that character because I sometimes like you read and I've actually made a point of looking more for female characters like that who are just warriors,
Mm-hmm.
whether ancient
True.
or modern day warrior soldiers, and for her to be a Marine and then go into MMA
Mm-hmm.
and seeing her punch that bag, I that is just one of the coolest things in the world to me. I love that image of still being beautiful and what have you, and just and being powerful and beautiful and strong and not being afraid to not be the quote unquote norm of not having muscles and everything like that. I mean, y'all know how I get down. Love all types, love all body types. Hashtag Hooper Friday. And it same. But to have beauty and grace and strength in forms that aren't considered to be desirable,
Mm-hmm.
I love that fact. And then having someone who is just take no business, excuse me, I'm taking no shit, just all in their business fighting. I just dig that. So that character, when I was reading it, I was like, all right, yeah, cool. All right, cool, yeah, yeah. And I mean, Justice having a black angel
Mm-hmm.
is just because that's what our ancestors are. The ancestors be looking down like it wasn't Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life that saved your day, right? That was me.
That's me.
Remember when you were seasoning those red beans and you didn't know when to stop seasoning them? That was me that tapped you on the shoulder and said, "All right, that's enough Old Bay. You don't need no more." You know what I mean? So having again representation matters in all aspects, whether it is skin tone, whether it is LGBTQ plus, whether it is your gender identity, whether it is non-binary, gender fluid, intersex. I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning about that one now because I'm learning. I'm 43, but I'm learning. I want to learn because I want to give everyone respect and I want to show everyone love and I want to have inclusion, actual inclusion in things.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so beautiful and great and wonderful. And all of a sudden, I started thinking of watching Noah's Ark, but I don't know where to watch it, unfortunately. So
It
sad.
used to be on
Logo.
Logo, but
I don't know where to watch it now. I honestly don't.
maybe Hulu, maybe.
I haven't seen it because I would find it because I love that show. I love that. Oh my god, I love that show. Um, yeah, that's just I'm just a huge fan of it. It was just so cool, and something so different for me to watch, because I watched some of Queer as Folk and I was like, okay.
It wasn't.
Then Queer as Folk was a good Showtime show. I don't know if that, like, if that sentence makes sense, but it does to me because Showtime.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was definitely raunchier from what I remember, but
Oh yeah, 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 definitely,
it
yeah,
didn't show, people of color.
yeah. It definitely didn't. So seeing Noah's Ark, I was like, oh, this is different. I sat down, I was watching, I was like, all right, and just seeing the dynamics and everything. Like one of my favorite memes is of Alex eating the ribs. That's one of my
Yes,
favorite. I'll use that. I'll use that jife until the day I die. I don't care because he's sitting there like, and I don't eat pork,
he's standing up too.
and I don't like ribs, but he was just sitting like, and I'm like, that's a good ass rib right there. Um, so so let people know where they can get her, where they can get the Wingless Comics, where they can go for the Kickstarter. Malachi, please.
Okay. So for her, you mentioned it earlier. You can find it on Amazon. Um, you can buy as many copies as you want. If you want to buy,
Yes,
just please and thank you.
yes.
But for Wingless, we do have a website that you can, make your purchases.
Mhm.
It is Wingless, ENT for entertainment.com. So it's winglessint.com. If you go to the website, and of course you will, because why wouldn't you? There's a tab that says comics. You could actually download some free comics that we have there. So if you haven't had the pleasure of reading Justice number 0, it is there for free. If you want to read her number 0, because of course you do. I mean, why wouldn't you want to read her? It's there for you. And if you subscribe to our newsletter, you get a free comic, Justice 1.5, called A Simple Wish. Now that one, that was it's intense, that story, but intense in a good way. So
Okay.
so definitely check it out. I want to hear your thoughts on it, obviously. And if I don't hear from you, I'm going to seek you out, as I often do.
And he will.
I will.
He will.
I'll find you. I'll find you. So we're also on Instagram, Wingless Comics. I am also on Instagram. I admit I don't use it as much as I do Facebook, but I'm still there. Because Facebook, I can cut up on Facebook. It's more fun.
Facebook is way more you than
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah, because you see, I'm like, hey, here you go, Wingless Comics, Kickstarter, woo, 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 woo. Here's the video. But on Facebook, I'm like, let me tell you about this. Beep,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so Instagram, it's Mal the writer. So it's gonna be an underscore between Mal underscore the underscore writer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we do have a Wingless Comics Twitter account. I have a Twitter account as well, but I have not logged in like a year and a half. And Twitter is it's I
Yeah.
just I could never get into it. But we do have a Wingless Twitter account if that's your thing. Um, and of course, the Kickstarter. Just search out Wingless Comics, Nightfall Part 2, A Cold Wind Blows. It'll pop up. We have a cute little video. Again, the tiers are great. Oh, about the tiers. Um, if you want to be featured as a character in Nightfall, you can pledge, the to the cameo tier, and you will show up before the end of the story. Personally, that's my favorite tier because I love seeing people, who pledge and you see them in the comic book, because
Yes.
they totally lose it. So a friend of mine, Tiara Reed, she is one of my biggest supporters and one of my dearest friends. So she hit me up a couple months ago when we did the previous Kickstarter.
Mm.
She's like, "Yeah, Malachi, just take all my money." And I said, "I will. I'll take your money." And so we pledged. So if you go to the Kickstarter now, and there's a scene where you see the news reporter in the helicopter,
Mm-hmm.
that's her.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
you're not just
All right.
a background character. You actually will be in
Mm.
the story. So that's my favorite tier.
That is awesome. I have one question, real quick.
Sure.
Okay, so when you do start writing the X-Men, um, I want to know because I'm speaking it into
Existence.
Existence. I'm a
That's what
manifest.
my dreams.
I'm gonna manifest the shit out of this.
You've been saying it for a minute though. We discussed this before.
Yeah. Who would you have? Okay, you have 5 members.
Oh my
What's
god.
what's the team that you pick?
All right, so since we are doing, the Krakoan era of
Hmm.
X-Men,
Hmm.
obviously we want to have Storm because Storm is, and I love. I need to get that shirt. Who did that shirt? Was that Sean Allen who did that shirt?
Yes, and I have a mask to match.
I've seen it, and I want it. I
It's
get it.
all right. Damn.
So I
Bro,
go on screaming, get excited.
not.
So Storm. So
Yes.
Storm,
Okay.
I would love to have be the leader of that team.
Right.
Um, I have such a fondness for Marrow, from the world.
Ooh. Yes.
I mean, I've always loved the character, and I always loved the tension between her and Storm. But I guess
Mm.
if Storm ripped out your heart, literally, I guess I'll be mad too, right?
Yeah.
So there's that.
Okay.
Um, I love Nightcrawler.
All
You
right.
know, you need to have the heart and soul of the team. Kurt has always been that, for the X-Men.
Yeah.
Um, I do have a fondness for Colossus.
Okay.
So, with him in X Force, I don't get to see him as much as I want. So I would
Mhm.
definitely give him more of a role in, my lineup. And I will go back to how he looked in Extraordinary X-Men when he had the beard going on and,
Oh yeah.
the hipster look. That
Yeah.
that was probably one of my favorite looks for him. Um, if Kate wasn't so busy with the Marauders, I would include her, but it's getting a little too much for her. He's like, just stay with your little boat. Um, so just be a pirate. I'm good. Be a pirate because she could be problematic sometimes too.
Oh
When you
my.
use the word. So Kate.
Yeah.
So Storm, Marrow,
Right.
Nightcrawler, Colossus. I'm not gonna go with Wolverine
Mm.
because he's always in someone's face. But you know what? Why not go with Maggot?
Ooh. Ooh.
He
All
is
right.
another
All
favorite
right.
of mine, and we haven't really seen him that much aside from like the random cameo.
Mm-hmm.
Past I don't know 23 years. So I would love
Mm.
the opportunity to fully bring him into the X Men, and because if I can't have him, then maybe Nesno or Gentle.
Mm.
I just want to see Black. Oh, and what about Tempo? Because they're never going to use her, so I'll use her. Let's bring her.
Okay. I
But
didn't know if you were going to say tempo or sync. I didn't know who you were going to say.
you know what? I'll take anybody that's black.
Uh,
Yeah,
the all new, all black X Men.
With
All
it,
right.
with
All right.
it.
All right. All right.
pretty
All
black.
right. That's the blackest cover of any comic. And it's got to be a wraparound. It's got to be a wraparound because you got
Yes,
to have all that. Ooh.
I
Ooh.
wanted to do a foil cover too, like issue 325. Remember?
Ooh.
Yeah, I want
Ooh.
number 300. Remember that one? Yeah, I want
Yeah.
those colors.
So we're gonna have that old school '90s
Mm-hmm.
foil
Yeah,
wrapped up. You have to order. You can't order online. You got to order it from the back of a comic. You got to
yeah.
send in a money order or a check. We got to go old school with
With
that.
the explosion right on it. Yes.
You can't do digital. It can only come that way to you, and it's going to take like a month because it got to get there, then it got to come back.
Yeah.
Remind me, I'll never forget this. And this is why I stopped doing email subscription.
Yes.
I started doing them when I was like maybe like 13 and I got cable or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2004-ish, I was doing Uncanny X-Men. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when, the Extreme X-Men Return to the Mansion.
Right.
So I was waiting for my what was going on? Was it the House of M tie-in in 2005? Because they had a storyline with Rachel with Psylocke. They were in a white room, the white hot room.
Okay.
So I was waiting for that issue to come in, and I'll never forget this. Someone came in the plastic and the cardboard.
Yes.
I just got the cardboard. Someone had stolen the comic book, but I still had the
Ooh,
cardboard mailed to me.
that's
The
foul.
issue, I said, and of course it happened towards the end of my subscription. So I was like, you know what?
Oh.
Fuck this. I'm so done. with mail subscriptions. But yeah,
That is the most hateful
I'm
thing I
not
think I've ever
bitter.
heard.
I'm not bitter.
That was so hateful. Well, Malachi, thank you so very much for joining us on
Thank
this
you. Thank you, sir.
Saturday, and just being like I said, you are the. If I was to go and ask someone about Marvel lore, you proved it in the beginning. Like you didn't even have to, but you were like, look, and you knew the number, and
You
it was a Wednesday, and I think it was overcast. It was like 47 degrees. The humidity was at a point. Well, I don't know if you can see from the Doppler radar right here is for what the weather was so on point, and this is who you want in your writer's room for a comic, for any writer's room, truthfully, because the amount of detail and the passion that you have in it is incredible. It's amazing. I love it. It's what, well, like I said, legitimately, you're one of the people who I stay on Facebook for because, like I said, I could set Facebook on fire and just walk away and not even give a damn. I really don't give. Yeah, but Malachi is one of those creators who has an eye for detail and will give it to you, and will do it with such exuberance, such passion, such heart, but still giving you these different perspectives of characters is amazing. So anyone who has Malachi on their team for any project, you are incredibly blessed.
you hear
And
that, Brian?
yes, I look. I'm not trying to get on nobody's bad side. I'm just trying to sing the man's praise. I don't want to get on nobody. I don't want to get on nobody's bad side. All I'm trying to do is eat pancakes and be happy. That's all I'm trying to do.
You hear those pancakes? I swear. But yeah,
Pancakes, Fupa Friday, and just be happy in my sweatpants. That's it. So thank you so very much, Malachi.
Yes.
for having
Thank you.
me on. I appreciate it.
I will have links for everything for her, for Wingless Comics Entertainment, for the Kickstarter. I will have links on the podcast and also here as well, folks. But this has been an amazing episode. So much fun. We could go on for actually probably a couple of days talking about WandaVision. We may have to do like a whole episode where we just talk about WandaVision, possibly. I don't know. I don't know if I can go through that. To be honest with you.
Well, don't forget, 2 weeks we got to do Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, yeah. 2 weeks.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it has a lot to live up to, but it's going to be a different, but it's going to be like apples and oranges. But it still has a lot to live up to. But I think that's kind of part of the thing too, is the fact that Sam has to live up to this great. Ooh, the storytelling's already begun and hasn't even started yet. Ooh. Did I just do that? I think I did.
Yeah. What happened?
So thank you very much to Malachi Bailey for being with us and joining us and gracing us with your presence on the show. So much appreciated. Thank you so very much. Michael, any last words?
COVID is still out there. Keep that in mind.
Yes. Texas.
And continue to be good to each other.
Yes.
Or as Antonio loves to say, don't be a dick.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. As myself, do the best you can with what you got, because it's all that you get. And as Michael did allude to, yes, my ending. Don't be a dick, and but don't be a cunt. Especially. That's it. I mean, you know what? The word is not just for like anyone who's English or Irish, even though they say it wonderfully. I love the way they say it. The way when you hear it coming out of someone's mouth who is English or Irish, there's a gravitas. Thank you, James Lipton. There's different gravitas to the word. So on that note, thank you very much, everyone, for everyone who responded. Just a great interact. All of you in the comments loved it. Great. To everyone who was listening, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Eat something tasty and wash your drawers. I don't know. That's the best I got right now, folks. That's it. And lotion. Lotion is very important because it's going to come out. Lotion is very important. Lotion is important. That was not shade. I'm just saying lotion is important because we're coming up on those times, all right? Everyone enjoy the day. Have a good one and enjoy yourselves, all right? Peace.
All right.